welcome back to the Corporate Burnouts. Hey, Mandy, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be back after a couple of days off.
Yeah.
I didn't have much going on this weekend, but we're going to get into your weekend. I know you had a big one.
Yeah. So my weekend was fun. We went to a couple of concerts and it's so crazy because we probably go to 4 concerts a year, I'd say 3, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
not a whole bunch. And we
And you
went
thought,
to
well,
2 this weekend.
let's just cram in two in the same weekend.
Yeah, and I'm such a I don't need to be sleeping by 10 p.m. by any means, but I need to be relaxing by a certain time because I'm just my old body is done with the day. And so we did a concert on Saturday and a concert on Sunday. And I was so excited. We've had the tickets for yesterday's concert to the Red Clay Strays for 6 months probably.
Can't even believe I didn't know you were going because when I saw that pop up on the calendar, I was like, you're a bitch.
Yeah. It was so good.
Love them.
Yes, yes. So, for anyone who doesn't know who they are, look them up. They're kind of a country rock Christian, you know what I mean? Like they do a lot of songs about
Yeah.
it's not Christian music, but
Yeah.
it all revolves around their faith and God and Jesus and all the things. And they're just so freaking good. Just
They're just so
excellent
good.
musicians, right?
There's something very Elvis about them too that is
Yes. Brandon, the lead singer, he is very the Elvis, Johnny Cash kind of melding together, reincarnate, if you will. And it's interesting because I've heard the music a lot, right?
yeah.
So I'm like, I know that I will love this concert. I had no idea that just watching them play and hearing them all play together, like it was just incredible. But
It's
you go
really
see
a magical experience. I saw them
it is.
earlier this year and it was like,
But watching the lead singer specifically, feel the music, it was like, geez,
yeah,
it's pretty incredible, and I love music, so I'm always in, but it was so good, and then the times when he wasn't up front and he was playing the piano or something, it was so fun to watch their drummer. He is so fun, he's just a fun drummer, and he makes all the funny faces, and he's just fun. Anyway, it was amazing.
well, I'll tell
It was an
you,
amazing show.
when I saw them, they were playing at like a local festival, if you will. I don't know, it's like a 3-day outdoor concert. And there was nobody else playing that was quite like them, which makes total sense because I don't feel like anybody is quite like them.
Mm-mm.
But
Yeah.
we made our way to the front of the stage and to really watch them. I very specifically wanted to see them. And it was like being transported. I did not feel like I was in Abilene, Texas. I was
Mhm.
like, there's no way that I am experiencing this here. Right. Like,
Mhm.
and then the set was done and we kind of went right back on to, the group and what we had been doing. And it was like, did that just happen? How did that, like, it was a really strange experience to like, where you see a performance that kind of really removes you from where you are completely. I mean, it was really powerful,
Yeah.
really powerful.
It really is. If you haven't seen them, look them up on Spotify or wherever and take a listen. It's very inspired music and um try and go see them soon. They're about to blow up as
Yeah.
big as you can be. Like they're going to be in stadiums in no time. We saw them in a place that holds probably 5,000 or something. But yeah, go see them soon. They're incredible. They blew up on TikTok. Like they've been playing together for 10 years and they blew up on TikTok, which is crazy.
Found them about, well, now I would say a year and a half ago, probably. My cousin turned me on to them, and then it was like, who are these people? And then, of course, they came out, and I was able to see them earlier this year. So they're not new to me, but I feel like you're right. Like you're onto something. They are going to blow up, and I
Just
equate this
explode.
to.
Mhm.
I remember seeing. I went to a Luke Combs concert one year, and Morgan Wallen was opening for him. And I don't even remember which one of his songs, but it was like I knew a couple of his songs, but I didn't realize who it was. And every song that he played, it was like, oh, he does that one too. Oh, oh my god, like,
Yeah,
I know all of this stuff. This is the best concert ever because I had so much fun with the
mhm.
opener, and then 5 seconds later, literally, I felt like within a couple of months of that
He's
concert, I was
headlining,
like,
mhm. Yeah,
"He's like the
the
best
most
thing since
famous.
sliced bread to the whole rest of the world now," and he's massive, and it was like, I didn't know who he was 5 seconds ago, except that I knew all of his music, and I think they're gonna be like that too soon,
I think so
because you
too.
don't realize
I
while
had
it's
no
happening.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea that, that they were big enough to even headline a show,
Mhm.
right? And, everyone came out for them, it was awesome, and but I think that, like I said, they'll be in stadiums soon, and the tickets will be more than you wanna pay, but
Yeah.
they were in clubs last year, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it's just it's kinda crazy
Girl,
how
they
it can
came to
happen.
Abilene, Texas. I
Yeah.
know.
I mean, to be fair, that was a music festival, but
It was, and they were
yeah.
not they weren't the biggest people there, so,
Mhm.
yeah, I get it, but, it is an incredible concert if you get the chance to see that, as wild as it is, but also wild in my weekend, far less exciting than yours. We watched Unknown Number, that documentary on Netflix.
The High School Catfish. It's wild.
I cannot, and, like, I'm not really into documentaries, that's not really my jam. I don't know what it was. Peyton and I spent a lot of time we watched a lot of movies and, hung out together a lot this weekend, which was fantastic, but, I don't know what made us turn that on, and, like, I fell asleep to it one night, so I didn't really watch the whole thing, and then we were talking about it with friends, or well, I guess friends, family, on
Mhm.
Saturday, and it was my cousin had come in town, and his wife kinda ruined it for me. She was like, "I don't wanna spoil it," and I was like, "No, just tell me, man, like, I probably won't ever go back and watch it." And so she told me basically the general gist of it, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So then Peyton and I had to go back and watch the whole thing, and I am mind blown.
Yeah, so fast forward ahead if you haven't watched the High School Catfish, The Unknown Number
Yeah,
show
spoilers, don't listen.
if you haven't, literally go watch it right now. Stop, press pause on this podcast. You need to see this. It's wild, but we are gonna spoil the ending, so if you need to fast forward, do
Yeah. So, basically, the premise in this is that a girl, Lauren, and her boyfriend, what was his name? Owen, I think?
Owen, I think? Yeah.
Yeah, are basically being, like, bullied via text message by somebody that they don't know, and, this goes on for, like, what, like, 2 years?
Yeah. Mhm.
It's
2
an
years.
insane amount of time, and all in all, in the end, it turns out to be her mother,
Yeah, it's crazy because, I mean, the things that she texted were like, "Kill yourself," and, it
and
wasn't
really,
just
really vulgar things,
yes,
like,
sexual things and horrid things you can't even imagine a mother saying to
no.
anybody, you know what I mean?
Seriously, anyone that you would talk to, like, no, and then to be the one to put your child in that kind of distress, like, I can't understand. Not even
Mm-mm,
one tiny bit, I can't understand, to the
no,
point that our conversation was really like, there's no way this was her. I think, and you've kinda convinced me that maybe I'm wrong, but I really was sitting with the thought, like, there's no way this mom did this. I think maybe Lauren was doing it to herself for attention or for, because at some point her and Owen did break up and all of this continued. And the things that were being said were directed then at a new girlfriend and, wreaking havoc. So I'm like, well, maybe Lauren was really the one doing this. And when mom found out, because she was pretty obsessed, right? Like her and her mom were really close. Her mom was maybe a little bit too involved in her life, if you ask me. But it seemed like maybe mom was just protecting Lauren. Like one of the first things she said was like, how's she supposed to go back to school after this? Like, I don't want this to affect her. And it's like, well, if you did this, why is that what you're worried about? But I don't know. I felt like maybe she was taking the fall for her kid
yeah.
to protect her and like give her a life. But
Well,
I
and
don't
there were
know.
people who thought that Lauren might have had something to do with it
Yeah.
too. But so I have heard more since then because they apparently left a lot of stuff out of the documentary for, I'm sure, many reasons. And there was a cut article in like New York Magazine or something like that. And basically, it tells more of a backstory about how people like, a lot of people thought that it was Kendra, right? And a lot of people also thought that
A
Lauren
lot
had
like,
something to do
during
with
the
it.
investigation, during the time, people thought that it was Kendra the whole time?
So, some people, maybe not the whole time, but they had figured it out, you know what I mean? Like, they thought that they did, and one of my biggest, like, "What the hell?" was, like, moments was whenever they told Lauren and her mom, like, she didn't have a reaction. I'm like, "That is just not the kind of family that I grew up in or spend any time with," because it
Lauren
would have
didn't
been
react, she just
she
sat there.
and so I think that what that article was thinking is that she had already suspected, and she was
Or
just
she just
in
already
shock.
knew, yeah.
Yeah, like, she didn't wanna believe it, but she had already kind of come to terms with it or something like that, and I'm just like, literally, like I said, the people that I spend time with, the family that I am in, like, it would be a
There would have
nails
been a
scraping down
brawl
the face
immediately.
of yeah,
Well,
of
and
this
I
mother.
question too if the dad knew about it because his reaction really wasn't about, "I can't believe you did this to our kid." His reaction was, "I can't believe you've not been working. I can't believe you've been lying to me about your jobs."
Mhm. Yeah, and so I
And so
don't
I know
know
it
if
was
that's
nuanced for him, but
yeah, it seems weird, like, the
yeah.
end of that documentary was weird. It's not crazy for Lauren to still love her mom. It's not
No.
crazy for you know what I mean? Like, feel weird about how she reacted. I hate that they let the mom hug her while like, that was just so it's like, "No, this is your abuser," This is terrible. It sounds like that people knew, and it sounds like Kendra was very, very obsessed with the boyfriend, and it could have been part of the reason that they broke up because obviously any kind of hardship that you go through with a partner, especially when you're that young, like it'll tear you apart in no time because everyone handles this kind of stress of being harassed like this differently. It's not surprising, but if he was feeling uncomfortable about the amount of attention that Kendra
That
gave
he's
him
getting from
because that article was very and obviously I haven't read it, but people on TikTok have, like, explained it. The amount of attention that she tried to give him and the amount of obsession that there was, like, it had to have been bad on a relationship because I've gotta tell you, if a father of a boy that I dated in high school was giving me unwanted attention, I would've been
be
running
out
for the
so
fucking
fast.
hills. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's nothing that could've kept me there because that is so uncomfortable, if not
Yeah.
scary as hell. Yeah.
Yeah, creepy. Ugh,
So
I don't know.
anyway, who really knows? I sure don't, but at the very least, Kendra really downplayed it like it was not really a
Oh,
big
yeah,
deal.
everyone makes mistakes. People break
Yeah,
the law all the time. Like, are you kidding me?
I
You
know.
would equate this to I can't. I don't know.
No,
Anyways,
no,
all
I
that to
literally
say,
can't.
my weekend was a little bit, it was good time with Peyton watching shows, but that one was really like a holy cap. Peyton even commented, she was like, "I kinda get it now why, like, you don't want kids to have phones and social media and all the things." And I was like, "Oh, you don't say? Like, you're just lucky that things like that didn't happen to you. Like, that's not
Yeah,
normal." But I can't tell you how many, like, TikToks and things like that that I've seen where people can relate because of harassment things. Maybe
a
not quite
same
to the
similar
same
thing. Yeah.
yeah, maybe not to the same level, but it's not as wild as it sounds. Now, the fact that the mother was involved and all that, yes, but, like, the digital cyberbullying stuff, like, that's not as crazy unheard of, but
Yeah, it
all
happens
that to
all the
say,
time.
your weekend was a lot more fun than mine, so
It was.
I'm
I
jealous.
didn't tell you about the other concert that we did this weekend, which was Pantera, which is not my normal concert that I go to,
So how was the
and it was wild. It was so wild, but so cool. So Samantha saw that there were tickets for like $9 or something in the lawn, and she's like, "That's what we should do tonight." And it's like, "Okay, but you're also not a Pantera fan, you
right, so
know?"
why do you want to
Yeah,
go?
she just likes to go to concerts, right? Like, just and so her and I and her friend Ellie all just channeled our inner music lover, right? And went to a cool show that we never would have gone to any other way, but Dan was in his element, like, he was pumped.
Is he a
This is
Pantera
one of his
fan, or did he just,
big
like
fan, like,
okay.
big fan, and he'd never seen them live, he'd only seen, like, tribute bands and of Pantera, and so he was so excited, and was so excited that we would go with him and whatever. So we go, and Pantera is cool. It's different, it's hard rock, it's not, it's not and the music was good, but the opening act was this, like, it was like a musical, kind of like a metal musical, if you will, like, with the
I don't even know
full,
how
like,
to imagine that.
I wish that we had recorded the whole thing, but basically they had all of these like big like Viking props on the stage that it was the coolest thing. And then each like they had kind of like sparring over here and their shields and their, and then they would sing this song and it was super like death metal and but it was so interesting. And I'll send you a video of like there was one song where they're like row and everyone's like rowing. They're like sitting down on the ground to row.
So
And
it
I
was an
got a video of the girls.
experience.
It was a full experience. Like that was one of the funnest things that I've ever been to. The rest, it was just like like I said, channeled my inner music lover, and the rhythm and the everything was good. It's not my first choice for music to listen to in the car or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
But I
but
love that Dan got the experience,
mhm,
and I like that you can, you know, adapt a little bit to be able to enjoy those things together. You obviously went from one extreme to the other, going from Pantera to the Red Clay Strays, but there's
complete
something for
opposite.
everyone this weekend.
Yeah, and it was like I said, it was a fun experience, but I did have to was kind of you figure out going into our conversation today, you
Yeah.
figure out how to be a chameleon in whatever situation that you get yourself in, and I think that I learned a lot more how to do that in corporate to become a chameleon to kind of get along and do the job the way that I needed to and just kind of get through it sometimes.
Yeah. As we were talking through this and trying to, determine what direction we were going to go with this conversation today, in thinking about it, I think that one of the reasons I was really good at that in reading the room and determining who I needed to show up as in this particular meeting or with this particular audience or covering this particular topic, I think I've kind of been doing that my whole life a little bit. Like, and I don't know, like, let's not go to therapy, but at the same time, it's like, I don't really know what in me that stems from, where I'm trying to read the room to determine who I should be to show up, and maybe it's like the whole rejection of it all, like, you do what you gotta do to fit in, to find your place in every group in a
Yeah.
way that feels real and authentic, right? Like, it's never about, like, trying to be completely somebody who you're not, but finding a way to fit in every scenario, and corporate definitely requires that. I mean, it is a skill set that will get you far if you are able to turn on a dime, adjust your approach, your tone, your delivery. There's so
And
many
your
aspects of it.
personality. I mean,
Yeah.
it really it does matter the person that you show up as, and
Mhm.
I think that that's where it's been hard for both of us to say what's really me in this, because I think that there is a chance that you come into this corporate job with a skill set that is I can be what you need me to be to
Mhm.
do really well at this. But it's a chicken and an egg situation. Did I come in with that, or did I have to learn that because I was made to feel
Yeah.
a
Oh,
certain way and
like,
now I
I was
have to figure it out?
underperforming as myself, so I had to
Yeah.
adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is, and it's mind-boggling now, especially post-corporate, where being on all the time that we talked about how exhausting that is.
Mhm.
I don't think that I realized how much being on had overflowed into my outside of work life. I won't say so much my home life. Wasn't like that with my husband. I wasn't like that with my kids, but it did happen. I mean, there were times where there would be arguments like, "Hey, wait a minute. I'm not your employee. Like, you're not coaching me. Don't talk to me like that. Like,
Yeah,
I
switch
know
off
this
the
version of
manager
you.
mode. Yeah.
Like, come back to reality." So things like that did happen, but you catch yourself. I can only imagine in 2020 when COVID was at its height, right? And everybody was doing things on Zoom where your work personality is happening like this, right? Like virtually. Yet you've got like your husband or your significant other or even your kids going, "Why are you talking like that? Who
Yeah,
is
you
that?"
sound crazy because
Yeah.
that's not how you talk in front of us. And they probably not just, the switch from regular to professional voice, but probably several different kinds of professional voices throughout the day, depending on who people were talking to.
Adjusting to your audience, and yeah, I think it was probably a wake-up call for a lot of people. It wasn't that way for me because I worked with my husband, like, he knew when I was turning it on, like, "Put on your work hat, here we go." So that really wasn't weird for me, but it did cause situations where it was like, "Hey, you're not at work right now, turn that off," and I would do the same to him, so that it it overflowed in that way, but the biggest takeaway for me is post-corporate and also post-marriage and a new relationship, realizing that in my personal life, more so with friends outside of the home, right? So, like, when you show up in a group setting,
Yeah.
automatically I mean, for work for me was a group setting, right? Whether it was in
And
presentations or socially or there was so much of
well,
that.
there was so much entertaining and event
Yes,
planning and things that
hosting.
when you hosting, yes, event hosting. I couldn't come up with that word. It makes it so that, yeah, whenever you're out with people who are not your BFFs, right? Those people get the true authentic most generally. But, the acquaintance friends, they're probably going to get the same type of Mandy that they people at work when you were hosting events got, right?
Well, if I'm really honest in looking at it, not all the time. If I am really comfortable, confident, not feeling vulnerable or, you know, uncomfortable in any way, Imma just be me and, like, "Hey, what's up?" No big deal. If I am, then that's when I notice, and I think it comes from, like, from that corporate setting, right? Like, sometimes the event hosting, sometimes the audience, sometimes the people that you were put in front of was really intimidating, and it did make you feel vulnerable, and it did make you feel insecure or, like, whatever, where you're like, you don't have the ability in that situation to do good at your job and show up small, so you overcompensate, right? So then it's like, now I have this big, loud personality because that's what this situation calls for. And so in social settings, even in my personal life, when I have those nervous energy feelings or like this is not the vibe that I want, then I go to turn it on because I don't want to be the Debbie Downer. I don't want to be the like, what's wrong with that girl? It's funny because when I was in corporate, I do have a friend that would tell me like, every time I introduce somebody to you, like they always think you don't like them. Like, why? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't mean to be that way. But I guess I'm not I don't know, like, I wasn't on, right? It was, like, in an element where I was just, like, being myself, like,
Yeah,
"Hey,
comfy,
what's
and
up?"
then you didn't seem, like, overly joyed or something.
Yes, because
Yeah,
she knew, like, obviously, both versions of me, and when I say both versions of me, it is not at all like a multiple personality situation, right? It's about, like, augmenting your personality. It is putting a mask on top of who you really are, adding layers of personality, being bigger than you feel like you
mhm,
really are. I think because she's seen both sides of that when she would introduce me to new people and I didn't overly but that speaks to the like
comfortability, mhm.
yes, and the vulnerability and the insecurity where it was like I didn't feel like in a professional setting, I'm not trying to be your friend, man. Like, I got a job to do, and this is a position that I'm in. This is what's required of me. In my personal life, it's not that way. And I want people to like me for me. So I don't do that. However, and this is kind of the point I was trying to get to a while ago, is in my personal life now, going out, there are some times where I'm like, just chill. I'm just myself, like, hey, how y'all doing? And it's like, what's wrong with you? Nothing.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
just
great.
not all the way on, but I'm here.
But you've gotten used to a version of me that wasn't comfortable in her own skin. So I was trying too damn hard. And then that became the personality that you were accustomed to. And if I don't show up as that version, something must be off. And like putting those things together now really makes me sit back and go, holy cow. First of all, how long have I really been doing this? Which version of me is truly authentic? And how do I mesh those things together and not lose that skill set of adaptability? Because I think that being able to walk into a room, read it, know your audience, and show up in the way that is going to best benefit the
Yeah.
situation, that is
Mhm.
a massive skill set that I don't want to let go of. However, if you're
How
not
do you
really
turn that off?
grounded, yeah, if you're not really grounded in who you actually are, and find a way to still be who you are while showing up in the way and communicating in the way that you need to for effectiveness, you can really lose yourself, man. Like it's a mind fuck. It really is a mind fuck when you're sitting back going, "Okay, how did I turn this really great skill set into an identity crisis?"
And I think that there are two things that can happen. There can be this corporate situation or whatever it is change your personality, right? It rewires your personality. And you are just a chameleon who maybe doesn't know how to turn it off, or you know what I mean? Like it's not completely changing your personality, but there are people, and we can say it in good and bad ways. All right. So I'll give a couple of examples. There's the CEO that's a cutthroat and they're just going to hammer until they get what they want. And maybe they didn't start off that way, but their job made them into a real ball buster, right? That's where you're being rewired. You've been given the power, and now in every part of your life, you are too much. There's also the changing the personality. So when I started at Roadhouse when I was 20 years old, I was shy, like shy. And every single one of my trainers was like, you have to talk louder. They can't hear you. You have to talk louder. Hey, you have to do this. Hey. And I'm like, I feel like I'm going to die because this is way too much for my nervous system. And so I spent 18 years trying to come out of my shell because it's what was required for the job. At first, I was a server and then I was a bartender. And then I started doing marketing, and every bit of it, I had to come out of my shell. And I always told people, I'm like, you don't have to change yourself to be good at marketing. I'm not bubbly. That's just not me. I don't pretend to be bubbly. I'm just not. But you do have to be comfortable talking to people. You have to be friendly. You can't not be friendly. And I can do all of those things. But thinking about the first time that I walked into businesses and spoke in front of people, and I had to train myself and change myself to be that, and it's all for the better. If I tell people now that I was so shy, like I could barely talk to a group, like I needed to just be one on one, I was always much better one on one with people because it wasn't as intimidating. They're like, "What? You're so outgoing."
Yeah.
And it's like, "No, I'm not outgoing. I am just more comfortable
Yeah. I just know
speaking to
what's
people now."
required, so I
And
do
it
it.
did. It changed me. It did. I had to rewire my personality and to both do that and get comfortable with doing that. So I completely changed. And I think that's also the order of things for a lot of people who grow up really shy. You can continue to be shy, but a lot of people figure out how to come out of their shell.
Yeah, well, I think a big takeaway from what you're saying there is that it goes one way or the other, right? You are either actively changing and you are growing confidence in the ability to be more outgoing, talk more, be more approachable, or you're acting. And I think that like that's the identity mess that I kind of feel like I'm stuck in is like, I know that a lot of the and again, I can't even really blame this on corporate because I think life does this to us in general, but specifically, if you are working in a corporate environment where you are in front of people, especially, from a presentation perspective or dealing with people above you in rank, you you always feel like you have to step into this persona, if you will. And some people become what it is that they need to be successful in that role. And some people wear a mask and are acting the part that they want to play. Um, with the fake it till you make it sort of mentality and the imposter syndrome that comes out of that. I mean, there's so many things that it's like, I don't know that I was paying very close attention. I had really great role models to emulate to go, okay, this is how I need to show up to be able to do a good job in this role. But that kind of backfired on me too, in the way where people that knew me and my authentic self, when I became the coach for them, they were like, "Hey, can you just be yourself? Because you're really coming off like a mini version of your boss." And it was like, oh, well, I didn't find that to be a horrible thing. She was incredible at her job. And it was like, well, then I'm doing what, but at the same time, it was that gut check moment of, well, I want to be myself
Mhm.
and still be good at this job. So, trying to figure out how to meld those 2 things together was a process, and I think I did get really good at it, but it came with time, and it came, actually building a true sense of confidence that I deserve to be here. I know what I'm talking about. I know that I'm good at this job. However, fast forward, you take yourself out of that role, out of the corporate environment, where does the confidence go? Where does the sense of self go? Because the identity of it all is still all wrapped up in.
'Cause you were playing a part a lot of
Yes,
times.
because it's still acting. Even if there is
But I
genuine change coming along too, it's still acting.
Yeah, and I think, we've obviously talked about on this podcast before that I had to always be on, and I was masking so much of the time doing the job, and I think it was mostly about the amount of time that I needed to be on and the amount of time that I needed to be outgoing and the cheerleader and the things that just didn't come as naturally for me. I didn't have as big of a problem with that I became a mini version of our boss because we're just not even close to a lot, like I'm just so to myself. And but I had a separate struggle of, are you even going to be good enough, because you can't get to that level. And it took me a while to realize that what I brought to the table was different, not better, but still good, right? People always told me that I was very approachable and that I wasn't intimidating. Obviously, there's always going to be people intimidated by somebody we weren't the marketer's boss, but some
Yeah.
people looked at it that way. But I think that there was something that was okay with them about me because I was more just kind of take it or leave it about me. But I did have to prove a lot more then because I wasn't doing it the same way as most of the team, who was so outgoing and so just professionally polished and all of these things that I just wasn't. And so that was difficult for me. It's like I've changed a lot for this, and that brings its own level of imposter syndrome of, I have to do this as me as much as possible because I can't, like,
Otherwise, it's
I
not
physically can't
sustainable.
change. Yeah, I can't change myself any more than I already have. So, is this gonna be enough? And it was enough for the most part, and that's great, and it worked out, but I think that I probably had an easier time in the personal life because I I mean, I had to drop that the second that I wasn't working. So I didn't run into that in my personal life of, I am not always showing up completely organically who I am, because I was like, it was like, I have to drop this immediately or else I can't sustain it anymore.
Well, I think the way that you and I differ in this is that when I was on, in all those, like, cheerleader type moments, like what you're talking about, like, I was a cheerleader in high school. That was and my mom always told me, I'll never forget this, like, "If you could grow up and be a professional cheerleader," and I'm like, "I don't wanna be" like, what? She didn't mean
Yeah,
literally go
for
be a
the
cheerleader.
Cowboys, yeah.
And so when I became a marketing coach, like, I remember my mom just laughing, I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "You did exactly what I told you you were gonna do.
Mhm.
You
Yep.
found a way to have a career as a cheerleader." And I'm like, "You're totally right."
Yeah.
But, the point in saying that is my self-worth, my inner confidence, the things that made me feel good about me happened when I was in that role, like, when I was that version of myself that was achieving, that was serving in some way, that I felt like people were getting something out of this investment, if you will. And when you take that away and you realize that when your self-worth and your confidence and all of those things
Mhm.
come from a place that is artificial, what's left? No wonder there's, like, an identity crisis in leaving this role. Even what, like, 2.5 years later,
Mhm.
I'm still figuring out, like, probably more now than ever, I am trying to determine who's really under here and
Mhm.
how do I accentuate that person in real healthy ways rather than being the chameleon and trying to show up in my life, whether it's to my kids, in relationships, in friendships, even at work, with clients, with you,
Mhm.
on this podcast. Like, if
Mhm.
I'm honest, I am on right now. I'd really rather just be, like, talking like this and being my
Mhm.
normal self, like, the energy that it takes to go, "Hi,
Mhm.
welcome to
Yeah.
the corporate burnouts." Like, I love it, and it does do something for me, but
Yeah.
where do you find the balance of, like, this
But
is who
there
you
is
are and this is who you have to be?
it's hard to see the line,
Mhm.
and I think, yes, you're on, but I also think that I have always thought when we're having, like, real deal conversations that are serious and whatever, when you start to feel passionate about something, or if you are like, I freaking know everything about this, or right, you're like excited about something, it comes off as this kind of on, but I'm not sure that it's completely, it's like, this is the enhanced you,
It's
right?
because
Because you
there's
could,
confidence behind it,
yes,
right?
uh-huh, it
And
is, it's the
sometimes and
confidence.
that is exactly my point, right? So, like, even in this moment, I feel like there's so many breakthrough internal moments going on here,
Yeah.
but, it's like, if I know what I'm talking about, or I know that I'm right, or I'm really excited about something that I've learned, or, like, whatever that is, and it really and truly lights me up, all that is 100% authentic. But I've
Yes.
also figured out a way to have that same spark completely performatively, and
Well, and
that
you
is a
know that
mind
it's,
fuck.
well, but the thing is that you know that people have responded well to that,
Right. So you show up
and
that way because that's how you get the best out of other people,
yes,
and that
mhm,
feels manipulative and gross. I don't
it
love that.
does. It does, but it's not, it's the way that we are trained to, if I act like this, then I get this in return.
Yeah.
It's manipulative if you strategize it, but if you're just like, when I show up like this, when I give of myself this way, I get back this way. That's just human nature.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because you lean into
Unless you're
what works.
like, yeah, unless you're like, when I flirt with guys at the bar, I get free drinks. That's manipulation. Like,
Yeah.
that's a whole different thing and not something that either of us are doing at this time in our life. But you know what I mean? Like, that's a full manipulation. When I do this, I get this. But whenever I am excited with somebody, I get the energy that I'm looking for in return. That's just kind of normal. I think that a lot of people either don't realize that that's something that they do, or they don't use it in any way. I think some people are so authentically who they are, and it will also hold them back a little bit. I had somebody who I worked with
Yeah.
who, yeah, we had a lot of different bosses, and they all needed to be handled differently. And by handled, I mean the communication had to be different, the timelines were different, and the rules were different, and what they wanted from us was so different. Well, I had this one boss that me and somebody else shared this boss, and he needed things cut and dry. He's like, he never said, I don't have time for you to beat around the bush, but like his eyes said it
You
if
knew
you
that.
started to beat around the bush. And because of the way that I grew up, I can read people and know what they need from me so that I don't ever get in trouble for just being me. And so I clocked that right away. She always showed up completely authentically to herself. She was going to explain the entire thing and she was going to drive him nuts. And I sat in on that a lot of times. And one time I remember stepping in and being like, I think that what she's saying is blah, blah, blah. Like, let's get to the point because he's about to lose his shit and we're
Yeah.
all in a car together, you know? Like, I am
You're like, "I don't
definitely,
wanna be in the car when it blows up." Okay.
yeah. And the thing is, she wasn't doing anything wrong. There was
Yeah.
nothing wrong. And, and so I was also trying to protect her from the feeling that you get whenever a boss goes off on you. And it was like, I want to
Yeah.
help you read this
Read the
car.
room.
And it happened, you know, it happened a lot because we had several bosses. We also had a bunch of people who we coached. We had a bunch of people who on different levels of
Right.
owning the business that we coached, and they all had to be spoken to different, and there were coaches who did not speak to them different, and and it was hard.
It
No.
complicates things for
Yeah.
sure. And I can remember difficult days where, throughout the day, you might be speaking to different types of people. Like on one call, it is a department, right? Of peers that we don't all do the same job, but we have the same like end goal, right? On another one, you're coaching down, and I don't mean that condescendingly, but like you're
Yeah,
coaching
the
people,
person who does the job under you.
the
Mhm.
marketers, and then in another one, you're being coached. So like your level of professionalism versus relatability versus approachable, all of those things have to shift. And that can be really exhausting. But if you don't master how to do that, that's a management skill set. Period. You're not going to move up if you don't learn how to lead up, lead across, lead down in effective ways, right? With you guys, with my team, like it's fine if we were really blunt, sarcastic, we could vent, we could get, just completely real, and I think that saved our lives. We've had that conversation a million times
Mhm.
where we really
Yeah.
needed that. It did get some toxicity over time that we had to, like, cut out, but when you're on with leadership, everything has to be more polished and professional and really, to your point, like, it's gotta be quick, cut into the dried, very efficient, solution driven, like, there's a complete difference in that. When I was talking to the local store marketers, man, half the time it was literally just the relatability, right? It was comes off as therapy sometimes where it was like, you know, I know the struggles that you're having, but let's talk it through. Let me help you with this. And it becomes more, hand holding and friendly versus structured and professional. And it's hard to bounce back between those modes.
Mhm.
What's even more complicated, and I think this is what trips people up a lot of times, is when you have people in the audience, if you will, of all of those calibers. If
Mhm.
you have leadership and your peers and the people that you're coaching all in the same space, who are you supposed to be right now in this moment?
Yeah, and they always say speak to the middle, right? But then not every, like that doesn't completely work. It's
Not every
impossible.
time. Yeah. It's like you have to really determine like, is this an opportunity for the people below me to see me elevated with, speaking to people above them? Or is this an opportunity for the people above me to see me being relatable to the people that I'm coaching? You know what I mean? Like, who is the actual target audience for this moment?
And you have to figure it out, but that's the whole point of this. Are there are so many ways to handle this. Be aware, I think. Be aware of the changes to your personality. Are they all positive? That's something that I would really want to look at. if I was still in a situation where I couldn't be myself every single day exactly the way that I want to show up, is it positive? Are you working on how to hone this skill? Because being a chameleon can be a skill. It can also be a detriment depending on how you use it. And are you paying attention to that? Are you letting it bleed into your personal life? And is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Because I'm not sure that that's a bad thing, but is it not allowing you to show up completely organically yourself? Or is it making you more helpful to the people in your personal life? Is it making you hurtful to yourself or the people in your life? There's a lot that we learn in corporate, but is it all positive? Does it all help
Yeah.
you in your regular life, which is the part that really matters, is the
Yeah. Can you
family and home
include
life.
that authentically, or does it completely go against who you truly are at the core? And for someone like me who you could have asked me this 20 years ago and I would have said the same thing. The one core value that I value the most of all of them is authenticity. So even having this conversation and having to dissect within myself which parts of me are authentic and which times am I wearing a mask? Like, am I acting? Is this really who I am? Like, that's where the identity crisis really comes in when I don't know if I'm showing up authentically or not, but I know that that's the most important thing to me. So this is a huge thing to kind of dissect and I think that stepping out of the corporate environment is a really powerful way to determine that or has been for me to determine what really is natural and what really is performative.
It's really helpful to step out of it. You have less influences of people who expect you to be different than you
Yeah.
are. I don't think there's a single person who was like, you better fucking change. But it was necessary to be
Yeah.
able to change a little bit. But I think that the ultimate question is, do I know who I am outside of work?
Yeah.
And
I
if the
if
answer is, hell yeah, I know who I am and I can control it completely, that's healthy. If it's, I don't know, because again, we've talked about this, your self worth and everything about you is wrapped up in your job performance. That's not always going to serve you outside of work.
Yeah, I'm really curious and I hope that we get some feedback from listeners on this. Like we can't be the only ones, right? That grapple with the different versions of yourself that you have to put out there for different audiences and how that really impacts day to day and from relationship to relationship, whether it's those people that had to do Zoom meetings during COVID and go, "Don't watch me because
Yeah,
I'm
I'm going
being
to be
weird."
weird.
Yeah, this is gonna feel weird for you because I have to turn it on. To the people that are like, "This is, like, actually changed my personality." Because, again, I think there's a difference between growth in who you are and skill sets and learning to adapt by wearing masks and acting your way through a part. If you find yourself just playing a part, that's where burnout really creeps in, right? Like, that is exhausting and it's not sustainable, and it's so crazy. I do know that there was an element of me that either came in with this skill to a certain degree or did really learn it as a skill because otherwise there's no way that I could have stayed in that job in that company for 20 years because acting a part is not sustainable. There's no
Mhm.
way. But I do
Yeah.
think that over time, when you really start to break down the walls of the bullshit of it all and you have to look at it for what it is, that's when it was like, okay, I can't fake this. Like I'm done.
Yeah.
Can't fake it anymore. I drank the Kool-Aid. Now I kinda see through things, not to say that it wasn't different than what they said it was gonna be, but I see things differently now, and I can't unsee that. And when who I am or how I think doesn't align with how I have to perform, like, made threads start to unravel for me.
Mhm. Well, and I think that one of the biggest takeaways I have from having this conversation is to make sure that your time in corporate or with the influences of any sort of work and the people that you work with, do a gut check and make sure that you haven't changed, right? The competition of corporate and the corporate ladder can change you. The greed that you can get from just work in general and wanting to make as much money as possible. And I'm not saying that people are greedy who want to make more money at work, but if it becomes a situation where you have changed, because we know that not all corporations, but many of them now are built on greed. It's why our food is not safe to really eat anymore. It's why, like there's half the or like a third of the farms that there were just a few years ago because it's all being taken over by these corporations. And it's like if you find yourself kind of being on board with these corporations and the greed that some of them present, take a look in the mirror and see where you come from and see if you really believe that or if you're kind of stuck in, because that is something that could change your personality in a way that when you're old and gray and you're looking in the mirror and you're like, I'm not who I planned to be. That's something that I
Yep.
would want to look at.
Yep, and I think a good gut check on that too is like with that imposter syndrome, if the version that you show up at or that you have to show up at work would be a complete alien to the people in your normal life, like that's a little bit of a red flag that you might have to look at. And when I say it's a red flag, it is not necessarily like a you're bad moment. It's like you have to determine like do you know that you're turning it on? Is this an intentional thing that you're doing? Is this a skill set that you're using to get ahead? Or are you allowing yourself to evolve into a version of yourself that you don't like?
And you might be very well cruising towards burnout in a big way because
Yeah.
you are not who you want to be. Creates so much stress and anxiety to be somebody who you're not. That's just proven. Don't let that be you.
Yeah. This is a deep conversation.
It
I
is
I
kind
love
of a
it
deep
because I'm
conversation.
like here mentally already anyway of like, like who do I want to be? How
Mhm,
do I want to show up in the world? And again, with authenticity being at the core of what is important to me, I want to make sure that, as I continue to go through life and changes and challenges get thrown my way, that the way that I show up in the world, especially as, a role model as a mom, I want to make sure that I believe in myself and the version of myself that I'm putting out into the world to be proud of. I mean, not everybody's I say not everybody. No one is proud of themselves 100% of the time. Like we're all going to make mistakes, we're all going to fail, but this is just a really great gut check conversation for everyone to have like who actually are you underneath the corporate mask?
mhm. Yep, and you can let people talk you into that people pleasers do better at work and being flexible is so important, but just don't let it change you. Still allow
Yeah.
yourself to have your boundaries and say no. We almost got through a whole conversation without saying boundaries, but like say no, know what is real to you and do gut check yourself on that.
Ay, ay, ay. Well, be sure to leave us some comments. We'd love to hear some examples of
Mhm.
your corporate masking or revelations that you've had on how you can, show up authentically as yourself and still speak to the correct audience in the room. Or if you got any funny stories that you want to share about having to say one thing in one room and another in another room and make those things match up.
Mhm. Yep. Or if you have any stories about how surprised you were about your partner during COVID. I've heard so many good stories. They're like, "Who is that man?"
Yeah.
That's
What
crazy.
what is that? I've never seen
Yeah.
you before.
Yeah. But yeah, leave us some comments, send us stories on the website at thecorporateburnouts.com and share this with a friend. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.